Hi, it's Kirsten, and in this video, we're going to talk about self-releases. So we've spoken already about dilators and pelvic wands and how to use them, but if you don't have either of those tools, and even if you do, you might want to try doing self-releases. I teach these a lot because we usually have our hands and they're easy to just implement on our daily schedule. So first off, what am I talking about? If we have a tight pelvic floor, we want to try and get rid of some of that tension in the pelvic floor. And so we can use the tools like the dilators and wands, or we can use our hands. So when I have a client that has come to me, I'm working on releasing their pelvic floor internally. So going into the vagina and releasing those tight muscles. I ask them often if they can do some self-releases at home, or they can even use a partner to help them do that if they feel comfortable with that. Of course, this is making sure that all their tissue is intact, which means it's healthy tissue, that is not too fragile, they're not going to tear anything. So if you have a lot of thinning in your tissue, where a little bit of stretch actually can cause some tearing and some bleeding, or it's too painful, then you might want to go and use some moisturizers like vaginal moisturizers or a estrogen cream that you can get from your doctor. So now going back to these self-releases, when we do our own releases, it's kind of tricky to feel the muscle itself release because let's say the arm, if I'm pushing down on the arm, I'll feel what I'm doing with my hand, but I also feel it with my arm. And sometimes it's hard to gauge when the muscle releases. So I say to my clients, just have a clock or your watch or a timer or your phone or what have you, that you can go about 60 to 90 seconds per tight point. Now, access. How are we going to do this? I usually say use your thumb. It's the easiest way to get into the pelvic floor. So here's my handy dandy pelvis, and here's the vagina, here's the anus. I don't recommend to do this into the anus. We're going to go into the vagina, okay? And we're not going to be pressing up towards the urethra. We're not going to be pressing up towards the bladder. You know, it's sore, it's painful, and it pushes on structures that don't need to be pushed on because we're not looking at muscle there, right? That's your bladder and your urethra. We want to go down towards where the muscle is. I also ask my clients not to push straight down at towards the anus. It's very thin tissue there, and I don't want anything to tear. So where do we press? Well, let's say it's a U-shaped entrance to the vagina from the sides, going around the back to the other side. I ask my clients to more or less press towards their sits bone. So towards the, if we're looking at a clock, towards 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and 7 o'clock. What do I mean by that? Don't push on the top half, only push down towards the lower half. Now, how are you going to do this? So you'll need to find a place where you can have a bit of peace and quiet. And you're going to go in, usually with the thumb, into the vagina and hook into the introitus, so into the entrance of the vagina, and see whether you can find some areas that are tight or whether you can really feel a knot or an uncomfortable area. And you're going to press gently into that for 60 to 90 seconds. Some of us, we release really quickly. So 60 seconds is about where our muscle has relaxed and the fascia can start to relax, but sometimes it takes around 90 seconds. Again, it's a little hard to gauge when it actually does release. So put the timer on and do that. It's amazing actually how long it feels when you're doing 60 seconds of releases on one spot. So when you do find one, you hook onto it and you just gently press into it. So if this is the vagina, my hand, this entrance on this is not too small. So imagine this is the entrance of the vagina. I'm gonna go in, I hook in to about just past that digit, that little fold there on my thumb. So I go into the vagina, I hook, and then I'm pressing into a tight knot. So let's say that's the bladder up there. There's the anus down that way. I know I don't want to press on those guys. I'm not going to bother pressing up here. I'm just going to press on the sides. I go in, I hook, and then, oh, there's a tight spot. And then I hold it there for 60 to 90 seconds. Usually I say to my clients, do 60 seconds. It's nice and easy to remember. Try 1 point on one side, try 1 point on the other side. If you find that okay, then do a couple points on one side and then a couple points on the other side. Now, what position are you going to be in? Well, some of my clients will do it when they're in the shower. Now, I always say, if you feel safe in the shower and you want to do it there, go ahead. But I wouldn't be doing releases in my shower. I'd be so worried about falling over on the soap or something. So usually I'll say, just be in a bed, or you can even sit on the toilet, because sometimes it's easier to sit on the toilet and you can hook in and then do your releases that way. And some people like to sit on the bed and do it. Depends on how long your arms are and how comfortable it is. In what position? Usually I say you take one knee and put it up, and then the other leg is outstretched, and try and get in that way. So your right thumb will be releasing your left side. Your left thumb will be releasing your right side. Okay, so you're going in, you're hooking in, and you're pressing down towards your sits bone area. Going in, pressing down towards your sits bone area. Okay, so try and do this how often? Once a week? It's usually not enough. We need to do a little more consistently than that. We want to do this every day or every second day. Usually if you can kind of tie it into routine, let's say you've gone to the washroom in the morning, you've got clean hands, clean thumb, short nails, you're not going to cut yourself. Okay, so if you have really, really long nails, well, we have short nails for a reason, right? We don't want to go and start stabbing our vaginal tissue. So have your thumb like not too long, or else you're going to be stabbing yourself and then causing a whole other lacerations and issues that way. You want to go in. So if you've gone to the washroom and you find, you know what, I'm just going to do it while I'm sitting on the toilet. Well, make sure you're clean, that your hands are clean. You can gently go in. People say, well, do I need to use a vaginal moisturizer or a lubricant? Absolutely. If you feel that you are too dry, you can do that. If you don't have really dry tissues, then you don't really need to do that. Sometimes if we're using a partner to help us do those releases, which is something that I usually teach my clients a little more thoroughly how to do that, then you might want to use some vaginal moisturizer. So whatever your vaginal tissues feel like. Now again, our vaginal tissues change. So during our cycle, there'll be more fluidy, sort of when we're ovulating, you might find that you have lots of vaginal moisture there to do it, but you might find that you're a little bit drier right before you get your period. So do it every 1 or 2 days. You're going to just very gently, clean hands, short nails. You're going to go in, you press down towards your sits bone, try and do just 1 point for about 60 seconds, go into the vagina, press down on the other side for about 60 seconds. People say, well, I don't even feel it release. I don't feel it release, Kirsten. It never feels the same as when you do it. And it doesn't, because it's harder to do it to yourself. But it's also important. So if you have things like pain with intercourse, if you have a lot of tension in the pelvic floor that's creating other problems for you, it's good to know what that tissue feels like, how it responds to you doing your own releases, rather than someone having to come to someone like myself. Oops, I just bumped the microphone. Someone like myself who is going to have to do it for you. If you're able to have that tool and you can do it safely and carefully and do it correctly, then you've got that whole tool to help you so that you can get better and you don't have the pain in the pelvic floor. Again, so many of us have a tight pelvic floor. So like I said, just once a day or once every second day. You don't have to press too hard the first couple times, just like kind of get to know your tissue and how it responds to the releases. Now, I hope this has helped. I've been asked to do this video several times, well, a lot of times, because people forget how I teach them when we're in the clinic room. So I hope that helped. And if it has, you can just push that like button down below and let me know that's helped you. I hope you do this well. I hope this helps you, and all the best.